is the next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Greasy grove will soon be upon us. Katie high like we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. Wheeling Woods where we landed. Till Row is the next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Greasy grove will soon be upon us. Katie high like we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. Our aim never disappoint, so we have coincidentally stumbled on a legendary. Wait until they see us now. Waiting for the opportune time to show them this new power of mine. Wheeling Woods where we landed. We're till Row is the next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Greasy grove will soon be upon us. Katie high like we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. Wheeling Woods where we landed. We're till Row is the next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Greasy grove will soon be upon us. Katie high like we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. Our aim never disappoint, so we have coincidentally stumbled on a legendary. Wait until they see us now. Waiting for the opportune time to show them this new power of mine. Wheeling Woods where we landed. We're till Row is the next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Greasy grove will soon be upon us. Katie high like we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. Wheeling Woods where we landed. We're till Row is the next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Greasy grove will soon be upon us. Katie high like we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. Our aim never disappoint, so we have coincidentally stumbled on a legendary. Wait until they see us now. Waiting for the opportune time to show them this new power of mine. Wheeling Woods where we landed. We're till Row is the next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Greasy grove will soon be upon us. Katie high like we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. Wheeling Woods where we landed. We're till Row is the next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Greasy grove will soon be upon us. Katie high like we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory.
I have spent 5 months with an investor, jumped through hooped, had them come into our office. We've dealt with so many different types of reviews. We've dealt with all of this for it to just go silent. And I think every entrepreneur experiences something like that. It's not a horror story. I mean, that's a Tuesday in the startup world and no one talks about it, but today we are.
Absolutely.
Bob, I think that a lot of people, I mean, investors, when it comes down to the world of startups, when it comes down to the world of entrepreneurship, you can't always bootstrap everything. I mean, I could sit here and say, listen, if you don't bootstrap it, you're a freaking loser. But the reality of it is there's a lot of projects that that founders can't necessarily bootstrap. And so the reality of what we're talking about is, again, investors are not always your friend, but as long as you constantly learn from them, you're just going to get better as a founder. So,
well, I think, again, as you're talking about, investors are not your friends. Investors are people who are business people.
Absolutely.
Okay. So I always tell, dealerships. They're like, well, I need some money. I said, okay, well, there's the 3 F's of investors.
Yeah.
Okay. There's family, friends, and fools.
Yeah.
Okay. So you work those 3 first.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. So you go through the 3 F's. Once you get past the fools, okay, and you still need money, you're going to work with a professional investor. And they may not be a venture capital company or somebody like that. But these are people who, like your investors, these are people who have a successful business. Okay. And they're looking at investing in a business, right? And they want to make money.
Absolutely.
Okay. They don't want to make you happy. Okay. They want you to make them happy.
Yes.
You know, and it doesn't mean that they don't want to be your friend, but the number one thing that investors looking at is how the hell do I get my money back?
Absolutely.
You know, and I think that's the thing that we have to understand, that, you know, when you're looking at what we're calling an investor.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not a family member. It's not a friend. It's not a fool.
Yeah.
Okay, this is somebody that does this as a profession, no different than I'm invested in the stock market. I spend a lot of time looking at where I want to put my money.
Yeah.
You know, and so again, I'm not looking for these companies. I'm not looking for Elon Musk to make me his buddy.
Yeah.
Make me money.
Yeah,
Okay?
exactly.
That's what I'm doing there. So I think that's the thing you have to look at.
Yeah. Well, and you do. I mean, and the reality of it is again, there's some investors out there that I would say are, you know, run away from them, right? They're gonna, I've seen some investors come into businesses, not personally in my business, but I've seen investors come into businesses and basically take the whole business away from someone. I was watching a thing on LinkedIn. An investor came in, and because they didn't have things structured properly,
right,
they were able basically to overthrow someone who he'd spent 10 years building this business. And within 3 months of this investor coming in, he was no longer part of the business that he built.
Well, and again, you know, I mean, that's like a pirate.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
Okay, so they're most likely from Somali, and they came in on a ship, and they're going to steal your money from you. So I would say there's some of that.
Yeah.
Okay, and you protect yourself with that, with non-disclosure agreements and things like this, and have an attorney to work through that stuff for you. I mean, you know, because again, you don't want to give a lot of the recipe to your secret sauce.
Yeah.
To anybody. You
Absolutely.
may have somebody out there, like in your situation, you've got people that you've talked to that are in the world of software.
Yeah.
And you got some folks like, you know, Mike and Cass that have given you great input, great feedback.
Yes.
You know, they've done it, they've been there. So you're looking for that kind of advice. They're not interested in being an investor in what you're doing because it doesn't fit with what they're trying to invest in.
Absolutely.
So that's the other thing. Every investor kind of has this model of what they're looking for.
Yes.
You know, you spent some time talking with Mark Cuban, you know, and again, Mark, I maybe felt like he ran you through a few circles, but you know, and which is fine. I mean, Mark's done, I don't know, he seems to have done well. Okay.
Yeah, I think
he started out selling when he was a little kid, you know, selling a garbage bags door to door, you know, so you can't argue with his entrepreneurship. But again, you know, he's sitting there going, okay, how does this fit? How does what you're doing fit with what I understand about software? Yeah. And I think, you know, the thing is that he didn't know the industry that you're in. And that's the other thing, you get into it and you have, I mean, you and I have been working together for a lot of years. Okay. We know, I would venture to say, and I don't mean this in any egotistical way, but there's nobody out there between my knowledge and your knowledge knows more about the dealer world in agriculture, outdoor power sports, marine, RV. Yeah. Ain't nobody that exists out there. Cause I've been doing this 40 years. Yeah. And I've been into thousands of dealerships. You've been into hundreds of dealerships. Yeah. You know, so we understand what's going on in that. And if you're not from that industry and you're just looking like what Triton is doing, it's just looking at, well, it's just software. Yeah. You know, and you and I understand how much pain there is for the software out there that sucks so bad.
Absolutely.
Okay. So I got people all going to say, oh my God, Bob, is there anything better? And I go, hang on, it's coming. Hang on. You know, but I think that's the other thing you have to look at it and say, you know, the investors, they have a model of what they're looking for.
Absolutely.
Okay. And they're going to ask you a lot of questions and they may run you down some rabbit holes. And I think the big thing that you have to do, Brian, is go back again, is understand that really good investors, they're going to do due diligence. But you got some out there, like the one that kind of took you through a 5-month journey. Yeah. That should have been, I thought, a good fit because they are also in the industry. Yeah. But ultimately they ghosted you. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, you know what I mean? Yeah. And the suck part about the whole thing is what it made you do. And this, I think, is the lesson in all of this. What it made you do is take your eye off of the other investors because they were basically saying, hey, look, we are this magic carpet ride. And if we like you, and they had the money to do it, and it was a fit for them. Oh, for sure. Right. But they kind of took you on a magic carpet ride. And what it did for you is it made you take your eye off of these other investors that
Yeah.
you're now focused on
Oh,
that
absolutely.
are bringing in the money that you needed to bring into.
Yeah.
But I think that's the challenge a little bit you get into.
Well, and I think that's a great point, because when it comes down to it, the reality of it is no matter how many investors you have lined up, you always need more investors lined up.
Absolutely.
Because you can't,
absolutely.
don't count your chickens till the eggs
No,
hatch.
you're farming. You keep planting more crops.
Yeah.
Okay. Because you never know when the hailstorm's going to come by and wipe out your corn, or the raccoons in your
Oh,
case are
absolutely.
going to eat up your sweet corn. So I think that's the other thing again is you can't fall into this false sense of security where, well, I got this bank that's going to do this, or the SBA is going to give me this, or whatever. You know, you've got to get that stupid thought out of your head and saying, but what if they don't?
Yeah.
Then what's your next thing? And again, you can't stop. And if it happens, that's great. Then you can stop.
Yeah.
But if it doesn't happen, you're still working that pipeline. And again, it's like in sales. I tell salespeople, you say, well, I got all these people that's lined up to buy tractors. Well, probably only 20% of them are going to line up.
Yeah.
They all know more than that. And I go, okay, now you're dreaming.
Yeah.
Okay. So if it's 30%, that's great. But what are you doing to fill that funnel again? What are you doing to keep going out there? And I think that's the thing that I see with a lot of small businesses that are looking for investments, is they get focused on one. It could be the bank. It could be the SBA. It could be, who knows, an economic grant to something. It could be anything. Right. But then they say, okay, well, I got this. You don't have it. Okay.
Is the money in the bank?
Until the money's in your bank, you don't have it. And you keep your butt out there working to try to get somebody else excited and interested in what you're doing. And I think that's the fatal flaw for a lot of businesses. You say, okay, I got this in the bag. If the money ain't in your account, it ain't in the bag.
Absolutely.
You keep working it.
Well, and that was a big flaw that, like you said, I ran into, is because I had, one of our newest investors that's coming on as part of this seed round that we're doing right now. I've been working with them since September of last year.
Right.
They were super excited, and then we had this magic carpet investor come through, and it's like, okay, well, I need to hold any additional stock and equity back for this one. And so I put everything else on pause, and we would have had our seed round would have been closed 6 months ago had I just stayed focused, or not put them to the side.
They're just in line.
Because
back again, if it happens, that's great, but I'm going to continue to look at other investors. Right. And let them know, because that's the also thing. Then, what it does is I think it puts you more in control. I think sometimes as a small business owner, you feel like that you have no control over bringing money in, and that's just bullshit.
Okay.
You have all the control. Right. But you have all the control if you keep looking. Okay. If you just sat there and say, okay, I'm counting on this bank, this person, this whatever, I'm counting on that, you're a fool. Okay, because there's a high probability that won't happen. Or if it does happen, they know that you need them, and they're going to put the screws to you. Right? And they're going to ask for more than they would have ever asked for, and not give you any more money for it. And so again, you got to always, when you're looking for investors, to let them know, I'm looking at you. And if you want to do this, you need to make a decision on it. Right. And I'm not going to go through 1,000 hoops for you. Okay. Because I've got some other people out here I'm talking to, and once it's closed, it's closed. And the challenge with the one that you're talking about there, again, is they drug it out. I knew them well. You knew them well. Okay. But again, they cost you 5 months.
Absolutely.
That's in my, and I like the company. Don't get me
absolutely
wrong. They're good people, but they burnt 5 months of time for you.
They did. And they created a lot of, I would say, kind of trust issues too, and made us question things in our company, because it just wasn't the way that they would have done it. But doesn't mean that it was wrong.
Well, it's like, with software, with coding, if there's anything I've learned about it, and I've learned quite a bit working with you on this stuff, it's like anything else. There's not a perfect way to do everything. Everybody has their own idea of perfect, and the company that you're working with, Active Logic, I mean, these guys are building stuff for the military.
Absolutely.
Okay. It's just not shit stuff that they build. Okay. They're building stuff to, I don't know, do stuff secretly to people that didn't even know it had done to them. So when you say, well, my coding is better than them. Well, this is pretty good. If the military is willing to do this, and I think that's the other thing. It doesn't mean that somebody can't find a better way to do it, do a better way to do it. There's 1,000 ways you can do something, but it doesn't mean that your way is the only way, or they look at it and they say, well, this stuff is crap. I never wrote it that way. Well, you didn't write anything. Okay. So anyway, so I don't know. But again, I would say from my perspective, Brian, as a business owner, again, when you get to a point where you're looking for an investor that's not a family member or a friend or a fool, okay, and you're going into the world of real investors, okay, you have to understand that they do have criteria that they're looking at, and they really don't want to be your friend. You know, it's not that they don't want to be your friend, but their money is their friend. Okay.
Absolutely.
And they want you to take their friend and invite more friends to join their friend. You know, it's kind of like Kevin O'Leary on Shark Tank. He says, I want my dollar to go out and make friends.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
You know, and I want him to bring his friends home to me. That's what I'm looking for. And I think that's the thing, again, that investors are looking for.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, and you've been working with businesses. I mean, for everyone who doesn't know Bob, I mean, you've been,
well, according to my last post, I'm just a badass
that hates everybody.
That's not true. I looked at that and was like, damn, that's not actually me, is it? Right? I said, you know, I had like a can there, like a liquid death can, Founder's Tears. Yeah. It's like, wow, Brian, I think you've painted me as a bad picture here.
Well, I needed someone to be the villain.
Okay, all right. Well, okay. Well, I'm a villain, but I'm not a bad villain.
No,
you know?
but the reality of it, though, is it goes back again, is you've spent 40 years in business.
Right.
And if you see a business that is doing something wrong, you're going to call them out.
Yeah,
you're going to say,
I'm going to call bullshit.
Yeah,
okay.
exactly.
They go like, why isn't it working? Because it's stupid. Okay,
yeah, exactly.
I don't mean to be rude, but it's stupid.
Yeah.
Okay, and this is why it's stupid. I had a dealer the other day that called me up and they said, hey, I have an opportunity to take on this line, right? But they really want me to do this, this, and this, and this. And I go, well, do you want to do that? And they go, well, no, not really.
Yeah.
I go, well, then tell them to go screw themselves.
Yeah.
You know, because they need you worse than you need them.
Yeah.
They go, you think so? And I go, I know so. I've been in this business 40 years. I know where you geographically are.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of you out there.
Yeah.
Right. They're making demands on you. You want their product and say this is a big line.
Yeah.
Know? And it's a great line. I do a lot of work with them, but they were making some, I think, extreme demands.
Yeah.
You know, you got to do $30,000 worth of equipment. You got to put these walls up. That's just our stuff like this. And I, this guy, young man's name is Matthias, and he's a young business owner. I said, Matthias, I said, where the hell are you going to come up with $30,000? Well, they will fund it for 90 days. Okay, Matthias. Well, in 90 days, where the hell are you going to come up with $30,000?
Well,
well,
if he'd been located in anywhere in the Midwest, the amount of storms
right now,
through, you could probably move all $30,000.
He's in Ohio, so they've had some storms, but not like we've had
not
here.
As bad as ours.
Yeah, he could have moved all 30,000 of them. I said, but here's another brand that has got just as good a reputation. Okay, and I said, and it's a strong brand, and they're dying to get dealers, and it's a strong brand that everybody recognizes. So I said, I would prefer that you take the brand you're looking at, because their brand name is like telling people at 5 o'clock we give away cocaine. People will just come in and get it. I said, so I understand the brand, and I do a lot of work with this brand. Okay. Yeah. But on the same token, I said, but here's another brand. And I know this brand is desperately looking for more dealers, and their brand is maybe not quite as strong as the one you're looking for, but is definitely a brand people recognize.
Yeah.
And I said, so let the other company know, said, hey, that's great. I don't think I want to do that, but I have an opportunity to, this other brand called me and they want to talk to me also. And they're not asking for anything like you guys are. So I'm kind of deciding, where do I want to go?
Yeah.
So do you guys have any flexibility?
Yeah.
You know, and I said, that's why I told Matthias, I said, you got to create some leverage.
Absolutely.
Okay. You can't say, well, hell, you're the only thing I got. There's always another option.
Yeah.
You know, anyway, so that's the thing I think with dealers that I work with, is they get to a point where they say, I really want this. Okay. And I said, well, you know, that means you've given away your leverage.
Yeah.
They go, what else is there out there? Well, hell, there's a lot of stuff out there. Right. Right. And so, and that's kind of the thing again, you know, when you're looking for investors, you can't give away your leverage.
Yeah.
You know, like I say, you got to let them know that, say, if it's not you, then it's going to be somebody else.
Yeah.
I got 5 other people just like you I'm talking to right here. So you need to decide if you want to do this or not. If you don't want to do it, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I'm okay. You didn't piss me off because you said I don't want to do it. You know, most people don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Right. You know, but I need to know in the next week if this is something you want to move forward with. And if you don't, I'm okay. You're okay. But if you're not going to do it in a week, I'm moving on.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and your bigger investors want equity.
Yeah.
You know, so they're looking to say, I want to invest quite a bit of money because what I want is more equity.
Yeah.
And you say, I got X amount of equity I'm going to give up. You can either have it or somebody else is going to have it, but somebody's going to get it. Right.
Well, absolutely. I mean, and so going back into your kind of 40 years of business experience, looking at it from the dealer perspective, I mean, in what areas have you seen this play out with dealers? I mean, you talked about vendors, but in what other areas where a dealer might feel pressured to go with one or over another, or, kind of get put into that quote unquote investor or funds trap that we're talking about.
Well, if you're a dealer, and let's say you're looking at adding additional locations, you may need to bring on an investor.
Yeah.
Okay. Because again, you're looking at, you may be looking at $2 or $3 million to bring on another location. There's several capital venture companies out there.
Yeah.
I would stay away from them like a nightmare, because and I'm not knocking capital venture companies, but you have to understand, again, in the world I play in, people buy from dealerships because of the reputation of the dealership.
Yeah.
Right. They're buying the people, not the product.
Mhm.
Okay. And so, I always tell dealers that I said, it doesn't really matter what you handle. Ultimately, people are not buying a color.
Yeah.
Okay. They're buying you. Now, some people buy color, but not all people. Most people don't. Most people buy the relationship with the dealer. And so I always tell people again, so what you're looking for are people that have the same kind of attitudes you do.
Yeah.
Okay. If you're working with a venture capital, and there's several out there right now that are buying up dealerships. As a matter of fact, one's out there preaching all the time, oh, we pay cash for dealerships. And I'm going like, okay, what does that tell you? Okay.
Yeah.
So, and again, it doesn't mean that you're going to get screwed by them, but they only care about one thing, which is, making money.
Yeah. And I'm going to pause you right there because
we do
with
not
delightful computer,
we do not want to do an update right now.
Yeah. We'll go ahead and
we're going to do another time.
Yeah.
Okay. We could do a restart right now.
Yeah,
but anyway, but I would go back again. I think, I think that's the big thing as you're looking at Adam, you got to find people that kind of fit your values, so to speak, and there's a lot of people out there, like in the world that we are in, dealerships are going to continue to exist forever.
Yeah.
Okay. There's always going to be people that are going to mow grass. There's always going to be people that are going to plant seeds. There's always going to be people. You just have this. It's never going to go away.
Yeah.
So if you understand anything about the world that I work in, right, there's more demand for dealers today than there's ever been. And there's less dealers because a lot of dealers went out of business because they sucked. Okay. And I don't mean that. Well, I do kind of mean it in a real way, but I go back again because they got their focus away from what really matters, which is maintaining those great customer relationships, being frictionless, all the things you have to do to be a dealership.
Yeah.
So again, if you're looking in my world, you're looking for people out there that are looking to make an investment in a dealership. And even some of the vendors will do that. If you got a vendor out there that says, hey, I'd really like to have your product, put in our product, and said, well, you know what? What's it worth to you? Yeah. What's it worth for you to have my product, your product in my store? Well, that's not how we do it. Well, that's kind of how I do it. Yeah. It's like a grocery store. If a vendor comes into a grocery store and they say, well, I really want to put my product in here. And he says, well, this is what it costs per shelf placing. Absolutely. Okay. So you want my space and you want an end cap. Wow. Okay. Yeah. So let me tell you what an end cap costs. Vendors pay to be in a grocery store. Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. They don't just put their stuff in there. They pay to be there. And I tell my dealers, if you got somebody interested in being in there, I said, then have them ante up something. Yeah. Pay me. Give me 100% co-op for the next 12 months, unlimited. Yeah. Give me something so that I'll place your product in my store. Absolutely. And I think a lot of people they don't understand they have leverage. Well, and that's the thing. I mean, whether it's a vendor, whether it's even a bank or an investor, the thing about it is they all come to you with the expectation of negotiation. Yeah. I mean, how many times have you watched Shark Tank? All the time. I love that show. And that's my favorite. And when they're like, oh, well, Mark, we can't do that. He's like, well, then counter me. Yeah, right. Exactly right. What's your next offer? Yeah. Right. Like counter. They beg. I'm not sure I want to work with a dumbass that wouldn't counter that offer. They beg for that negotiation. Yeah, they honestly, I think a lot of investors thrive on that fact that it's like, okay, let's negotiate this. Yeah. Let's work through this. Yeah. Let's figure out something. And a lot of startup founders, when it comes down to it, when you're starting up, especially when you're very, very new, it's okay to negotiate, right? They expect it. If you don't, they're going to try to pull the wool. They're going to throw off an absurd offer, right? Hope that you bite on it. Well, it's like a bank. People say, well, you can't negotiate with the bank. Well, bullshit. Yeah. Banks make their money by loaning money. Absolutely. Okay. So they get these people that are putting money in their bank in checking accounts or whatever it is, money market, saving accounts or whatever it is, and then they get to loan out a multiple on what they have as deposits. Yeah. The government says, okay, for every dollar you have here, you can loan out 1,000. Yeah. Okay. So that's how they make their money. That's how they pay all their people and stuff like this.
Yeah.
So if you got a bank that says, yeah, I want to do business with you, but this is how we're going to do it. And you go like, I want to do business with you too, but that's not how we're going to do it. And people say, can you do that to a bank? Hell yes, you can do it to a bank. They're trying to sell you their money.
Yeah.
Okay. You think that you're begging to get their money. They're trying to sell you their damn money.
Yeah.
Okay. And if your bank that you're talking to is interested in it, but they want to do it this way, don't kid yourself. There's another bank out there that's going to be also interested. They've already looked at your financials. They already looked at, where you're at and all the thing you do. And if they're interested in working with you, this bank is, trust me, there's another bank out there that would be interested in working with you too, because they all have to look at basically the same financials.
Absolutely.
And I think it's a foolish thing where people say, well, I've done business with this bank for years. Well, they've screwed you for years.
Yeah.
Okay. Because they now know that, you know what, I always buy from this dealership. I never give them any pushback. Well, bullshit, push back a little bit and say, you know what, I'm talking to a couple of other banks. They're interested also. So what's the best deal you can give me?
Oh, absolutely.
And I think that's a piece of it that people don't think. It's kind of like an investor. Investor says, well, I want this. I go, well, I'd like to have that shit too, but that ain't going to happen. Okay.
Yeah.
And so here's what's going to happen. Now, whether you invest in me or not, I'd like to have you invest in me. But if you don't, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I am not going to lose sleep tonight because you didn't do this investment, because I've got 5 other people, right, that are out there that are interested in this too. And this goes back to what we talked about, Brian, again, is don't get caught up. And I got one guy that's interested.
Yeah.
Okay. You're going to die. You don't have any leverage there. You need to be out there. Even if you think you got all this stuff lined up, you've got to be out there getting other investors lined up. If one person's interested in it, that's an investor. That's not a friend, a family member, or a fool, an investor. Okay. Mm-hmm. If they're interested in it, trust me, there are other people out there that are investors that will be interested in it too.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and going back again, like to the bank side of things and like I said a minute ago, everyone is open to negotiate. I mean,
absolutely.
Because what you're doing is making them more money. Everything when it comes to a vendor, to a bank, to a lender, you're making them money.
That's how they make money.
That's how they make money, is by giving them your business.
Exactly.
And they want to earn it. So you have to look at everything that you're doing is like a sales deal.
Sure.
I mean, and I want you to bring that back in from the dealership perspective of it is if you were talking to an investor, you were talking to a bank, but they're actually in your dealership buying a piece of equipment, right? So how would you navigate so that people can understand? It's like, okay, I've got an investor. I'm going to see them as basically either a tire kicker or a qualified buyer.
Well, this goes back. Yeah. Like you said, it's sales.
Yeah.
Okay. This is what we've talked about before. So if I were looking or talking to an investor, I wouldn't say, well, here's what my business is. The first thing I would do is I would do what we call in sales the discovery process. I'd say, hey, Brian, I know you're an investor and looking at this, but tell me a little bit about what are you looking for in an investment?
Absolutely.
They go like, well, I'm looking for this. I'm looking for this. I'm looking for this. I say, well, what's the best investment you've ever made? Oh my God, I made this investment here. All right. And I say, well, why was that the best investment? Okay. Because it like made me rich.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it had to be more than money. Well, it was great. I got to help them. I got to grow with them. I got to see what they're doing out there. That's great.
Yeah.
Because most of your investors want to make money, but they want to be a part of something that's doing something. Most of them they're entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
They like to be a part of the thrill of something growing.
Yeah.
When you see Mark Cuban or Damon or any of these guys out there and on Shark Tank, they talk about, oh, this is, they have one of those, well, I invested in this business, and then 3 years later, they show it back on Shark Tank again, and they invested in it. It was doing like, I don't know, $750,000 a year. And now it's doing like, I don't know, 87 billion.
Yeah.
Right. And they go, and you can see like Mark Cuban go like, hey, yeah, this is a pretty good investment. And it wasn't just the money. They're making a ton of money off of it. But the reality of it is they love being a part of something that's doing something.
Yeah.
Mark Cuban, and I don't know Mark, but I mean, I do, because I watch him all the time on Shark Tank, and I wish he'd come back on as one of the guys. But again, but Damon, those guys, they love entrepreneurship. I mean, they're passionate about it. So I think, again, if it were me, Brian, I would ask an investor, say, well, I'd love to have you invest in this, but give me some information here. What are you looking for in an investment?
Yeah.
And then shut up and listen to them. And you got to be thinking in your mind strategically, well, how do I position myself for that? Or maybe you can't.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, what's the best investment as an investor investor you've ever made. And just shut up and listen to them. They go, oh, okay, well, I did this investment. It was a great investment. Well, what made it great? Was it just the money? Oh, no. Well, the money was part of it. But what really happened was I really got to see this happen and this happened and this happened over here. Then I would go back and say, well, that's great. I said, well, what was the worst investment you ever made?
Yeah.
They're like, oh, my God. Okay, there's like 15 of them.
Yeah.
Well, pick your worst of the worst. Because I will tell you, most investors have probably, from an investment standpoint, maybe 3 wins out of 10, maybe 3 wins and 7 losses.
Yeah.
Okay. That's just the reality of it. You can ask any investor. So they've got to hit big on the wins. But what was the one that you invested in that you went, oh my God, what was I thinking? Why did I put that money in it? And then you got to sit here and be thinking about, okay, because I'm going to sell this guy on me.
Yeah.
Right. And you're going to say, okay, well, this is why he invests. This is the thing that he did that he invested the most. This is the thing that he's going to try to avoid like the plague.
Yep.
How do I then position myself so I look more like not the plague?
Okay? Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Like, oh my God, well, we're just like the plague. Okay. But more like the cure, right?
Yeah.
This is the dream of the entrepreneur. And I think that's where a lot of people, when they're looking at investment, they don't ask the questions. It's like, what are you looking for in an investment? What's the best investment you ever made? What made it the best investment? Why was it, other than the money, why was it good for you?
Yeah.
And then you go back on the other side, and then what was the worst investment you ever made? Why was the worst investment? And how would you have, looking back now, how would you have done things different, whether it was that investment or how would you structured it differently? And I would just do basic sales. Hell, that's all you're doing when you're looking at investors.
Yeah.
You're basically trying to understand why they do what they do and then take what you're doing and just simply create it back in their mind and go like, well, hell, this is exactly what I'm looking for. Well, it's because you told me 15 minutes ago what the thing that you were looking for.
Yeah.
I just simply took mine and I restructured it in a way that it made sense to you.
Well, and when you're talking about that, right? So you talk about, one of the things that you said is that you have to make the investor interested in you.
Sure.
Right? Investors, do they invest in products or do they invest in people?
They buy people.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't invest in products. Hell, I can get products anywhere.
Yeah.
What I'm looking for, and what dealers have to look for, it's kind of like people. What you're looking, I can get people anywhere. What I got to look for is people that fit my culture.
Yeah.
We've talked about that so many times. Same thing with investors looking at an investment that fits their culture.
Yeah.
Okay, this is what we believe. This is how we believe it and things like this. So I think, again, that's the big piece of it, is making sure that it's just a fit and understanding there's a lot of people out there that will be interested, but they're not going to be the fit. And the quicker that you realize they're not going to be a fit for you.
Yeah.
Right? And there's nothing that you're going to do, because you can't lie. You can't tell them things that are not true about what you're doing.
Yeah.
What you're trying to do is kind of go through and find the people. And the other thing, again, is I think when you're talking to an investor, because these guys know other investors.
Yeah.
Okay. This is not like a solitary club.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a
and
pretty,
I say, when I'm not sure what I'm doing here is going to be right for you based upon what you told me, but do you have any other investors that that might I got a guy that you need to talk to?
Yeah.
Because
absolutely.
again, he goes like, that's not the type of stuff that I'm interested in, but I got a buddy of mine that really understands high tech.
Yeah.
And I buy properties.
Yeah.
Okay. But I got a guy that understands high tech. I know properties.
Yeah.
I don't know shit about software, but
Yep.
I got a guy that I know that sold a software company.
Yeah.
That's got a lot of money and understands software. He's the guy you need to talk to. And so again, if you've got an investor that is not a fit, it's okay. Ask them if they know of anybody else that they know that's an investor, because all these guys know other people
Yeah.
that might be a fit. And most of them go like, because they don't all invest in the same stuff.
Yeah.
They go out to breakfast, they have coffee, and they go, what did you fail on today? Oh, this is a terrible idea. So, I think that's the piece of it again, is don't think that just because somebody says, and you say, and I think this is the most important part, Brian, that you say, I don't think you're going to be a fit.
Yeah.
They're going to have a lot of respect for you. And if they really are excited about it, they're going to work their butt off to try to convince you that you are a fit,
Yeah.
that they should invest in it. So again, acting a little bit like, I'm the pretty girl at the prom, and I know I know you want to ask me out, but I'm going to decide who I want to dance with.
Oh,
kind of thing
absolutely.
like that.
Yeah.
And I've never been told I'm the pretty girl at the prom.
I
Just as a
have
heads up.
not either,
Just as a heads up.
by any extent of the imagination. But so one thing and this is kind of one of our shorter episodes, but so Bob, someone right now is listening. They're mid-raise, mid-deal. Yeah. Yeah, maybe.
I hope they are.
I can see our view count. We have people listening.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so someone right now is listening, mid-raise, mid-deal, mid-negotiation, and they're losing hope. One sentence, what do you tell them?
start looking for more investors.
Yeah.
Don't sit there. I mean, if you're kind of at this midpoint or whatever, you got to go back and really sharpen back your, I'm going to go back to a sales now. You're going to go back to prospecting again.
Yeah.
Okay. You got to be out there and you got to be talking. And again, if you're sitting there, and again, this is one of the things that you got caught a little bit on this one deal yourself, Brian. So we're just being transparent here, and you really did waste, quite frankly, and we didn't think it was a waste. I mean, you and I talked about it a lot.
Oh, absolutely.
And again, I know these people, so I didn't think it was a waste, but come to find out, I know it's hard to believe, I am wrong periodically.
I know.
Okay, so I was just
actually have my attorney drafting up some stuff about that.
I was just as shocked as you.
It cost me a lot, so we're gonna have.
That's all right. So we're gonna move on from that. That's a past thing.
Okay.
So again, so you had to happen to you. So you lost 5 months, but I would go back now, going back and looking and say, damn it, we knew better.
Yeah.
Okay, we should have done this. And I don't care how good you are, how good you get, where you're at. We're always learning. It's a part of what we have to do.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have to sit there and go like, okay, I got this shit figured out. Yeah, you never actually have it all figured out. I'm 71 and I'm still going like, yeah, Jesus, I cannot believe that I fell into that trap. I did. I'm not ashamed to admit it.
Yeah.
Okay. But what we now know is going back, okay, we're never going to let that happen again. And that's part of what this podcast is all about. We went through an experience here that probably cost you 5 months of development. Now it's not going to hurt you because you're in a business that's very seasonal and nobody's going to make their software change right now anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So it really didn't hurt the development side of it.
Yeah.
Had it been a little bit different time, it could have been devastating.
Absolutely.
But it wasn't.
Absolutely.
So it happened at the right time.
Yeah.
But I go back again is that, the number one thing, Brian, is regardless of where you're at, regardless of what you think you've got, damn it, keep looking for more investors. Keep talking to people that you've talked to and said, I'm not interested in this. Then reach back out to them and say, hey, look, Brian, I know you said you weren't interested in this, but I'm still looking for some investors. Do you know of anybody else like yourself that maybe invests in these kind of things that you can maybe direct me to? Most entrepreneurs are going like, yeah, damn it, just ask.
Yeah,
okay.
100%.
And entrepreneurs are they love to help entrepreneurs. I've been talking about this for a year now.
Yeah.
And link up with these people and get with these people at chamber meetings and things like this and be involved with it. And so if you've had some people that turned you down, doesn't mean that you can't go back and talk to them. You're not going to go back and ask them again.
Yeah.
Right? But what you're going to ask them for is, hey, I know this wasn't a fit for you and I'm okay with that. I'm still looking for investors. Do you know of anybody else that maybe that might have an interest in this? And if you do, I'd love to reach out and connect with them. Can you connect me with them?
Yeah.
That's what I would do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, then the reality of it is here's where I'm at right now. I mean, Triton, we're pre-revenue.
Right.
We've been building this thing for over a year.
Right.
Over a year, where we've got $1 million and millions of dollars invested in this. I'm in the middle of everything that we just talked about. Investors who promised and disappeared. 5 months.
You got ghosted?
Yeah, I've been ghosted multiple times by multiple different investors.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of investors. I would say that out of all of the investors that I've had conversations with, probably 20% of them come through.
Yeah, and that's
in the way that they say it.
Yeah, that's about the right average.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's a sales deal, but
exactly.
I mean, goalposts have been moved. We've jumped through hoops, but I'm still here. I mean, we're still building because at some point the parachute opens for people who do not quit. And right now, you're not alone. And the matter of the fact is, it's hard, but it doesn't mean that you're doing it wrong. So with that being said, I want to encourage everybody. If you feel like you're doing this alone, if you feel like you are the only one who is experiencing that, I will tell you right now that that's not true. It's complete and utter bullshit. There are so many people. We sit here and talk about being entrepreneurs every single week, and I'm dealing with stuff that we talk about because that's just being an entrepreneur. So, but with that, make sure that you guys check us out every Wednesday. Go back and watch all of our old episodes. Make sure you like, subscribe, follow us on all of our social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, YouTube. But with that, you're not alone. We'll catch you guys next time, and I appreciate everybody being here. Yeah, make it happen. Never disappoint, so we have coincidentally stumbled on a legendary. Wait until they see us now, waiting for the opportune time to show them this new power of mine. When words
rows are next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Greasy Grove will soon be upon us. Katie high like we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon claim victory. Wailing Woods is where we landed. We're 2 rows are next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Our aim never disappoint, so we have coincidentally stumbled on a legendary. Wait until they see us now. Waiting for the opportune time to show them this new power of mine. Wailing Woods is where we landed. We're 2 rows are next to be commended. We're taking down all of those who oppose. Greasy Grove will soon be upon us. Katie high like we're sitting on the battle bus. We're closing in and we'll soon